Okay, I'm getting ready to take the exhaust side off so I can clean it. This is a VGT turbo, so I gotta be really careful, but I put a mark here and here. I also stamped here and there so I get it back in the right position. Makes it a lot easier for assembly. If you don't get it in the right place, it can be a real pain to try and get stuff lined up. Okay, to take the exhaust housing off, before I go to take these off, I spray them with some WD-40, PB Blast or something like that. I already did, and I kind of let it soak. If you don't, a lot of times what will happen is you'll actually strip the clamps out. And these are lock nuts. They're typically a one use, typically a 1/4 20 fine thread. So there's your nut. And then the trick is you've got to get in here and pry these clamps loose. So those came loose pretty good. Let's see if the rest of it's going to come loose. Oh, this one did. A lot of times there'll be 3 segments. You got to go around and kind of pry them off. Sometimes it takes a little bit of hammering to get her off. Okay. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead here, clean that up really good. Take a chisel like this, and I'm going to mark it so I get it back in the same spot. Be careful you don't get too big a mark. If you do, you will could screw up the flange. Basically on a mark that I can line it back up with. Okay, and then anyways, you're going to end up working it around to get it to let go. Okay, ended up doing some creative tapping to get this to come apart. Ooh, there's all my veins. That's the hard part. So basically what happens is these veins change position when the actuator changes. So we're going to clean all this up, and I'll show you how to put it back together. Just get some of this guck out of here. Should work a lot better. Try to ungum it. Okay, just to show you how this works, these are sliding vanes. These are called volutes. This is a unison ring, they call it. But what happens as that ring turns, these are on pivots inside this housing over here. These will go like this, right? See how they move? You can see how it will slide in that ring. So they're pinned stationary with this, but what happens is it changes how the air or the exhaust and the heat is directed into the turbine wheel on the turbocharger. If we're like this, it's going to be unloaded and it's going to allow the exhaust gas to bypass the wheel, and that's what creates an exhaust brake. When they're like this, it's forcing that exhaust gas into the wheel to make it spin faster to create more boost. Okay, here's how this works. See, this unison ring is what they call this, and these are vanes. As those turn, as it turns like that, it forces exhaust into the compressor wheel to turn it. So it's going to blow like that. As you unload it like that, it's going to bypass it. It'll still hit it a little bit, but it basically goes around it so that it doesn't load the wheel, and it's going to go out the exhaust rather than pushing it into the compressor wheel. What I did is I took all this apart and cleaned it up. This is a unison ring, and what I'm going to do, lay it in here. See how that lays in there nice and snug. This right here is the actuator. It comes off kind of hard. Fits pretty snug. So, but the way to get this put in there, basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this pin right here and mark it, which I've done. So that pin lines up like that. Okay, I'm going to flip this, and I'm going to line this mark up with the dowel. You can't put this housing on wrong. It won't let you for that reason right there. Then what you got to do is you got to kind of come around and work all the little vanes into place. Like so. There, now you can see that mark's lined up with that hole. Slides back and forth. This little deal right here, this is the actuator. So as that turns, it moves this one way or the other. So essentially, to try and find my center point, I'm going to figure out where center is here. I'm going to put this in the center like so, and then I'm going to try and stab it on there. It's kind of hard to see what we're doing, but don't forget your clamp as well. Don't drop it either. Now we want to be really gentle how we set that in there. And holy cow, it looks like I went right in the first time. That's almost amazing. Okay, we're torquing the housing on. I've already done this, but essentially the trick to this is when you install the turbo cartridge to the hot housing, you're going to torque this to 50 inch-pounds on this nut right here. Okay, and then we're going to turn it up to 150. But what you do is you torque this to 160. Usually what I'll do is I'll tap this down evenly while I'm spinning the turbo to make sure it's not hitting anything. So if it hits something, it's going to damage the vanes on the turbo. But the first thing you do, torque this to 50, take your dead blow, something like this, and we're going to tap it down while we do it. And the final torque on this is going to be 150 inch-pounds. There again, make sure that the turbo spins nice and easy. It's not hitting anything. You got to remember these turbochargers spin somewhere, anywhere from 10,000 to 40,000 RPM depending on load.